The Honorable Greg Simmons came to Tarleton in the fall of 1982. He majored in criminal justice. He played outside linebacker for the Tarleton Texans, in which he earned the nickname Scrap Iron Simmons. Served as a resident advisor in Ferguson Hall, student government senator, belonged to the United Student Social Club. He was involved in ROTC, commissioned in 1986. And this is what got me when I had supper with him last night. He told me he was the number 3 cadet out of the entire Texas A&M system schools. He earned the ranks of Major Deputy Corps Commander and took an educational delay to attend the law school of Thurgood Marshall School of Law. Some of Greg's service included the United States Army Judge, Advocate General Corps, Fort Buchanan, Puerto Rico, Deputy Staff Judge, Advocate. He was a Special Assistant United States Attorney, Fort Bragg, North Carolina, 82nd Airborne Division, Chief Legal Assistant. The Pentagon, the Office of the General Counsel, Service Projects Attorney, September 11, 2001 Survivor, Operation Iraqi Freedom. Currently, he has his own law firm located in Killeen and Gatesville, Texas. He's a municipal judge, he's an attorney, he's a veteran, he's a husband, he's a father, and a Tarleton star. So join me in inviting Mr. Greg Simmons, Tarleton class of 1986, to the podium.
Normally when I have to give a speech or if I have to talk, it's normally like $4.80 an hour. So, plus a $10,000 retainer. So I tell you what, I'm going to keep this brief. I'm deeply honored by this invitation extended to me to address everyone here this morning. It's always a pleasure to come back to Stephenville, to come back here to Tarleton. I have pleasant memories of my time here as a student back in the early 80s. So to that end, I'd like to thank the president of this great institution, Dr. Octavia Darrell, for inviting me to come back. Listen, there's so many individuals here that after I heard Darrell go through the list, I just want to thank you all for allowing me to come here and speak at this time. Darrell and I were classmates, and of course we were resident advisors together. I just heard the word resident leaders. Is that what it's called now? Did we change that? Okay, super. I was wondering, I'm like, I want to be one of those too. But anyway, but also I was at Ferguson, but also there was a dorm called Crockett. And when I came back here a while back, I noticed that Crockett is gone. And I can tell you, the cafeteria in Crockett looked nothing like this, but I tell you, this is a beautiful campus. And Tarleton, you're doing all right. I came here in the fall of '82 at the campus. We were closing in on the population, about 5,000 students. As Darrell indicated that I did play football. I was in ROTC. Basically, I got involved. And when I came here, I knew I wanted to get an education. I knew I wanted to go to law school. But I also knew that I was going to have to get involved. And I want to tie that in with our theme today as far as Dr. Martin Luther King. It's his birthday today, the day that we celebrate him, but also to the students here and also faculty members about getting involved. And when we talk about getting involved, I'm talking about the pillars as far as what this breakfast represents, and that's the freedom, justice, opportunity, and civilities. I want to talk about getting involved and making sure that there's these core principles, this theme, that it takes place and it manifests itself here on the campus. While others were advocating freedom by any means necessary, that being Malcolm X, Stokely Carmichael, for the younger generation, you may want to Google those names, but Dr. Martin Luther King always talked about, and he used the power of words, he used the power of nonviolence, resistance, such as protest, grassroots organizations, and also civil disobedience. And he did this to achieve nearly impossible goals, and that is equality. The cornerstone phrase that Dr. King was known to say, and you would hear it in his speeches from time to time when he spoke of freedom, he would always say, "Let freedom ring." Some of his speeches, you can kind of, if you heard him, the oration, the power that came from him when he says, "When you allow freedom to ring, that we would speed up a new day, if you allow freedom to ring." And that statement, that's the idea of life, the pursuit of happiness, and that's, if you allow freedom to ring, happiness, and again, the pursuit of that will spread across this earth, and it will be allowed to flourish. Dr. King also sought to raise the public awareness and consciousness of racism and to also end racism, racial discrimination, also segregation. He felt by raising the consciousness of racism, Dr. King was seeking to show that as long as we embraced our nation, embraced or separated a group of individuals, there would be no justice, which is also tied into our thing. You may have heard the term, no peace, no justice, but you can achieve justice, and you could achieve it, and as Martin Luther King Jr. would say, is by loving your brothers, turning the other cheek when those that harm you. That was such a powerful message at the time that it's too easy to strike back when someone that wants to strike at you. But he knew that by using civil disobedience, if the news media would see this and see how individuals were treating those that were excluded, that it would have a profound effect. And in fact, it did. Dr. King said, injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. And by just, I'm talking about that which is lawful and that which is fair and equitable. As I indicated earlier, when I came here on the campus back in '82, I knew that there was something I wanted to do, and it was mainly, I wanted to go to law school. Came from Killeen, Texas, grew up there, played ball there, and I got here to Tarleton. There were no scholarships at the time. It was a non-scholarship league. That I knew if I got involved, because I knew I had to have a decent resume to get into law school, and that would start my whole journey as trying to right wrongs, is what I thought. What I learned is that I came to Tarleton, and I may have had a chip on my shoulder, but I figured when I left here, I was going to make sure that I had the best education I could possibly get. And I don't know if they still have this here, and I believe they do because I was talking to Dr. Atavia, is that the ratio, the students, the teacher were incredible, but also the tutoring sessions that were here. I found out real soon that if I was going to make the grades to get into the law school, I was going to have to apply myself, but also that there were tools here to assist me in getting there. So I wasn't an angry kid, I was a motivated child, and I wanted to get things done. I had a work-study job, along with the little Pell Grant. I got to work with Dr. Johansson. I didn't see him here today, but I can tell you this much. Him and the biology department probably single-handedly changed my life. He gave me good rules to live by. He didn't have to do this. He could have just let me, work there and not talk, not engage me. But what he did instead, he said, hey, listen, if you really want to get to law school, consider this. For every hour that you stay in class, if you spend another hour outside of class, that's a good C. If you spend 2 hours, you're going to probably get a solid B. And he says, if you want to really go to a good law school, if you really want to push yourself, go a little bit more than 2 hours. Now listen, from a kid from Killeen, Texas, hearing something along those lines, I always just thought, hey, if I can just get the grade and pass, I can just stay eligible and play. But he took the time to tell me that's the formula. And so I applied it. And I continue to apply that through everything that I do. And I'm trying to pass it on to my son. The verdict's still out on that one. But he also allowed me to, that he said, Greg, I think you may be weak in this particular subject. Why don't you go, there's tutors. And he turned me on to this whole, it was like a whole different network of things that were happening here at the university that I didn't think was possible. I really thought college was all about Crockett dorm and the field house. But as soon as my eyes were opened, and I got the individual attention and also the work, school became a blast, and then it became easy. And then I knew that whatever I wanted to do, if I put the time into it, I could create certain things, and that was opportunity. All right. And so I knew that I had a formula for life, and I thank Dr. Johansson for that. But most of all, I thank Tarleton for giving me that. Going back to justice, I'm often asked, how can you represent someone that you know that is obviously guilty? I'll share this with you. As a defense attorney, and I've just started, I've been doing defense attorney work for about 17 years. Prior to that, I've been a prosecutor. And I can tell you this, that, it's pretty simple. I don't really need to know whether they did it or not. It helps a lot, but they're not going to tell you anyway, trust me. And if they did tell you, you wouldn't believe them anyway, because sometimes what they say and what the facts add up to, but that's another story told with adult beverage. But I'll tell you this much: it's easy when you got to protect someone's constitutional rights and their state's rights. Also, when you get in front of a jury and you have the DA on one side, and you can just kind of neutralize him by saying, it's not the district attorney's job to get convictions, but it's to seek out justice. Again, one of the cornerstones of the theme today: justice. And normally, how I rate justice is that's the name that I give the verdict when the jury agrees with me. That's justice. In Martin Luther King Jr.'s famous mountaintop speech, he referred to seeing the promised land. That's a world where everyone, no matter what their color or what their zip code was, that everyone had access to opportunity. Coming here to Tarleton was an opportunity. Meeting the faculty members and those that took the time to invest in me was an opportunity. Dr. King was greatly responsible for passing the Civil Rights Act and also the Voting Rights Act. And I don't say that as far as a senator. I say that as far as the demonstrations and the protests that went on, that shocked the conscience of our country, that forced them to go talk to their legislators to say, this is something that needs to be passed to create opportunity. I say this, and you hear it all the time, and you'll continue to hear this, young folks, is that if you want to make a difference, vote. But I'll also say this: if you really want to make opportunity for yourself, then it's just hard work. There's a saying that a lot of people don't recognize opportunity, because when they meet it, it normally is wearing overalls and it looks like hard work. I can tell you this much. You always want to do the hard jobs, and I'll tell you why. I learned this when I was at the 82nd Airborne Division. By far the best unit I've ever been associated with. It changed my life after Tarleton. Just an incredible division. We call it the All-Americans. We always say when God's in trouble, and I say that lightly, that he calls the 82nd Airborne Division. But what I learned is that was such a hard unit, but it was also the standard. And once you adopted that and realized that was going to be the standard, it just fit into your lifestyle. I stopped wearing a watch. I take that back. I stopped paying attention to my watch, because I realized in order for things to get done, time wasn't of the essence. You just got to get it done. And once that incorporated into my lifestyle, then I just realized I can make things happen. And I can make things happen because I'm not going to quit. No one's going to outwork me. And then that's how I got to I'll come back to that as far as where I am now in Killeen. Hard work. If you notice, whenever someone gets the hard assignment, they normally get a lot of help. Someone says, hey, he's doing something hard. Don't bother him. So they won't bother you. So understand that. Two, you're probably going to get the better resources because they want that job done. So what I'm saying is that don't be afraid of hard work. Accept it. Jump on that, because it's going to create opportunity. And when you do such a great job, you'll get rewarded. And they'll know, give it to this person. They don't mind hard work. And that's the reputation you really want to come away with. There's a saying, and I used to see this all the time, as far as what luck is, and luck is hard work when it meets opportunity. So again, make your own opportunities. When I came back to Killeen, what had happened is that 9/11, I was at the Pentagon. I was in the General Counsel's office, and we got hit. And then so afterwards they came and they got us all together and they says, what do you want to do? And I just left the 82nd, went to the Pentagon, and I thought I was moving pretty quick. I was pretty proud of myself. Anyway, that got stopped. So we were asked if we wanted to go back out in the field, where would we go? So I asked to go back. I wanted to go back to the 82nd, but there wasn't a position for me. And then I said, you know what? Looks like we're going to probably go to war. I want to go back to Texas. I said, send me back to Texas. If something's going to happen, I'll take my chances in my home state. At least I can carry a weapon. Again, that was my mindset. So I got out, stayed in the reserves, and then I came back home to Killeen, Texas. I interviewed with some individuals for a job, and I realized they weren't going to hire me. And I just remember the last person that I talked with, it was a law firm. They were pretty prestigious in Killeen. One of the questions was, what are you going to do that's going to help our law firm? And I tried to tell them, I've tried over 150 cases, to jury, to verdict. I'm like, I'm a hard worker. I try to sell myself and things along those lines. And you ever get that feeling? Probably you'll get this feeling if you ever go on a job interview where it just doesn't feel like it's going your way, no matter what you're saying, and you're throwing all your best cards out. I finally realized that I stopped in the middle of the interview. I thanked them for their time. I took back my resume and I said, you know what? I had a credit card at that time, had a little bit of money on it, probably about $1,200. And I said, if I'm going to write a check, if I'm going to do anything, I'll do it on myself. I knew who I was, and I knew those that invested time in me, it was worth the investment. So I started that, and I started my firm. I did that because I wanted to create my own opportunities. I did that because it was hard work and it didn't bother me. And so afterwards, after starting renting a building, we were able to buy a couple of buildings. And so I don't know if anyone's from Gatesville, if you ever seen that 3-story old bank building, which I thought was appropriate. I wanted a bank building so I can keep all my money in it. My next, I'll try to get a Brinks truck next. No, but I bought that building, beautiful downtown on the square. And then also, I just realized, you know what? I'm in charge of me. I'll make this happen. And it's just an attitude that I somewhere picked up from here, staying in Crockett dorm, and then living on this campus and having my Tarleton degree. And I get more excited, when I work with other attorneys that actually work for me, and they tell me these incredible schools that they've gone to throughout this nation, that I still sign their checks. And I make sure they know that, Little me from Tarleton's writing this, all right? So anyway, I say that because I want to tie that in as far as being civility. All right. Although I had opportunities, I try to stay, and I am as humble as possible. And that's just because I'm grounded. Listen, I've lost lots of things. I mean, you think you're going to win a case or something along those lines, and you find out there are better facts than what you think they are, and you lose on those things. But first of all, humbling myself, I found out that that's the quickest way and the surest way to make sure that you're civil to everyone else. Civility, again, consistent with our theme today, but also is the act of showing regards for others by being polite. When my son was younger, I used to always tell him that manners have magic. And I would always tell him to say, please, thank you, may I, things along those lines. And I would send him in and ask him to do something. I says, use your magic. And I would just watch his eyes open up when he would say, man, please have a glass of water. And someone would reach over and says, oh my gosh, yeah, he's so mannerable. And I'd wink at him and give him the okay sign. I'm like, I'm telling you, manners have magic. And so I keep that. It's a way of training him to be civil towards others. Again, where they are, sometimes you think about in this world that we live today, where are the manners? Where's the love for one another? Where's the essence of what Dr. King was preaching? Where is that? But it starts manners, being civil to each other. Civility and also civil disobedience, and I like that, and it took me forever to understand the mere fact that if you disagree with someone, there's a way of doing that and still being civil about it. If you didn't want to, if the bus that you wish to ride on is not going to treat you as a person, well then don't ride on it. What an incredible message. Hurt them, where it hurts economically. I mean, some of the things, if you go back and you study what they were doing at that time, just in order to level out a playing field, just so that everyone's equal, it's amazing. Civility is so important that we actually have to legislate it. In the Army, there's something called POSH, which is prevention of sexual harassment, consideration of others, civil rights. But I leave you with this, pretty much it's just the golden rule. Do unto others as you would have them do unto you. What I like about civility, and when I was getting ready to put my speech together, is that I knew that it was one of our core values. And when I look up at the sign up there, I notice that it's the bottom, so it makes it the foundation, if you will, of service, leadership, excellent tradition, and integrity. In closing, Dr. King never was able to fully see the impact and laws in society and the changes that he made. The changes that he championed for. His dedication remains a powerful example on how civil engagement can transform neighborhoods, communities, and perspectives for an entire nation. I challenge us all, and I challenge myself, that we will continue to keep up and do the good work set forth by Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. And I thank you all for allowing me to speak to you this morning. Thank you. God bless you. God bless Tarleton.
When I visited with Mr. Simmons about coming to Tarleton to speak to us, he said, I said, now we won't want to give you a little something, for coming this way and being here. And he said, hey, I know just the thing. I said, oh, you're going to tell me what to get you? And he said, well, hey, I saw where you posted on your Facebook page some of this good old meat from the Tarleton Meats Lab. And I said, hey, don't say another word. We'll get you taken care of. So Greg Simmons, on behalf of Tarleton State University, you've got some meat from our finest, the Tarleton Meats Lab. And then after hearing the story last night about him being 3 out of all the cadets in the A&M system, I thought it would be fitting, Dr. Tavio and Sina Lees, Dr. McGregor, if I give him just one of our centennial celebration flags, so that we had when we celebrated our membership into the Tarleton State in the A&M system, we had these flags made up and gave the different ones, and so you need to remember that because Tarleton is right there in the middle. Thank you. Thank you, Greg. Appreciate you. Yes, thank you.